Good evening. I'm Brad Hantler, and I want to thank everyone for joining me here tonight. I really appreciate it. A special thanks to Governor Scott Walker for making it in from Madison, Wisconsin to be with us here tonight. I truly appreciate it. I'd also like to thank the host committee chairs. Without them, this event truly would not be possible. Kathy De Lorenzo, Alan Ackerman, Mara Letica, and former Attorney General Mike Cox. For those of you who do not know me that well, I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself, why I'm running, and what I stand for. I'm a lifelong resident of Michigan, and rather than join the exodus of college graduates to other places like New York, Washington, D.C., and states out west, I want to stay in Michigan because I want to be part of the solution of getting Michigan back to work. But first, let me address the elephant in the room. I'll be 22 on election day. And one of my opponents has already questioned whether I'm too young to hold state office. And I want to answer that question right now. I've been involved in local and state politics for over 10 years. I've worked on school board elections. I've worked in the former Attorney General Mike Cox's office. And I've also worked on behalf of Republican governors across the nation while I worked at the Republican Governors Association in Washington, D.C. So, I'm no stranger to politics. And I'm no stranger to what's at stake. It's going to be my generation that ends up footing the bill for all the spending that we do today in Lansing. So, I've got real skin in this game. I have the focus, I have the energy, and I have the determination to make a difference in Lansing. So, the short answer to my opponent's question, I'm very qualified for this job. I'm very qualified to represent the residents of Michigan's 39th district. Now I'd like to share with you the 3 principles that will guide me as an elected official in Lansing. First, I will never forget that government, they don't spend their own money, but they spend our money, the people's money. The second principle is smaller is better. And by smaller, I mean the size and cost of government. I subscribe to the maxim that if it's in the yellow pages, government should not be doing it. Let me repeat. If it's in the yellow pages, government should not be doing it. The third principle speaks to the idea of accountability. And by this I mean, for the services that government does provide, they should be held to the same competitive pressures and the same sting of accountability the private sector is held to each and every day. Let me now share with you where I stand on some key issues. I'm a fiscal conservative. I'm pro-life. I'm a member of the National Rifle Association and a staunch defender of the Second Amendment. And I'm a strong advocate for any policy that helps better educate our children and make our classrooms a place that is more competitive. Because after all, we know competition brings out the best in all of us. I am tonight announcing my candidacy for the Republican nomination for Michigan's 39th district. I want to thank everyone in this room for your current and future support. And a special thank you to Governor Walker. This night truly has been amazing already, and I will never forget this night that you came in for me. And without any further ado, it is my privilege and distinct honor to introduce the Governor of Wisconsin, Governor Scott Walker. Yeah!
Thanks, Brad. I'll be relatively short because you heard a great speech just now. And obviously it's a good program just across the way here, but I just want to add a couple thoughts. First off, I love the principles you talked about, because they're almost identical to the ones I ran for the State Assembly on almost 20 years ago. And it's interesting, the only other one I'd add to that is one I got from my grandmother. A woman who, along with my grandfather, the only thing they ever bought on credit was the mortgage on their farm. And everything else in life they paid in cash for, cars and everything else. And she said to me something I'll never forget, and I tried to apply when I was in the Assembly, when I was the county executive, and certainly when I was the governor, and that is, don't spend money you don't have. And something when you talk about understanding it's the people's money, and talking about holding the government accountable, fits exactly with those same principles. And as you said, I smiled, because it was very similar to the things I can remember knocking on doors, talking about when I first ran to the Assembly. Obviously, I come from across the lake. The lake we call Lake Michigan. We were originally from the Michigan Territory until we charted out our own course back in the spring of 1848. But it's an honor to be here, and it's kind of interesting. Somebody was asking me before about, what is it in the water of Wisconsin? Because there's Reince Priebus, the RNC chairman, myself, and Paul Ryan, Congressman Ryan, all grew up in the same little stretch of about 20 miles apart from each other in south central Wisconsin. But it's kind of appropriate, Bradley, tonight, because all three of us started out in our public service in our 20s. And so it's kind of interesting thinking about that. And I remember back when I first ran for the State Assembly, unfortunately in my case, I never had actually someone bring an age issue up, but I was ready because at the time I was running for a seat to serve with another great governor in our state's history, Tommy Thompson, who, along with John Engler here in Michigan, were the godfathers, if you will, of welfare reform in this country. Tommy Thompson pushed school choice across the country, who used the line of veto 1,700 times to save $250,000 for the state of Wisconsin. So I thought someone might, use my age as a factor back then as well. I never had to use this in a debate, but if you do, you can make reference maybe to the next generation. I was going to point out whether there was another guy who was elected in his 20s who served the state assembly, but I think he's doing pretty well for the state of Wisconsin at that time. It was then Governor Tommy Thompson. Paul Ryan and I were both elected to serve in public service for the first time in our 20s. And part of the reason we ran was because in our generation, we were called into public service, not just as Republicans or conservatives, but into serving the public. Understanding that the government is there to serve the people and not the other way around, by a great mentor, in our case, someone we saw from afar, but by President Ronald Reagan. For our generation, he was the one that inspired I and Paul and many others like us in the public service. And certainly, when I think about age, to me, whether you're 20 or 80 or somewhere in between, it's really about what people believe in that matters, not just about the age factor. In many cases, actually, I found my youth at the time was a great factor in terms of helping me be even more aggressive for the people that I was elected to serve. And along the way, one of the things we could use a healthy dose of is reminding people, no matter how long they've served, whether it's in the legislature here in Michigan, or in Wisconsin, or in the halls of Congress in our nation's capital, I think all of us need a fresh reminder about why we got into public service in the first place. And that's why it's a real honor to be here tonight, because it's always good to remember why you're there. It's not there for a title. It's not there. In fact, Paul and I often both of us tell kids all the time when we speak to high school groups, there's two kinds of people in politics. They're not Republicans or Democrats. They're not liberal or conservative. There are people who run for office to be somebody great, and there are people who run for office to do something great. And the best thing to remember is to be the latter. Brad, when I heard your comments, it seems like you're pretty focused on being the latter. And for that, you'll serve the people of your district and your state very well. It's an honor to be here tonight. Thank you.